Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Louis Croshoe. This is the KIT podcast, Keeping It Together. I'm joined here with who's normally my co-host, but today I'm going to be interviewing. Do you want to introduce yourself as usual?
Yeah, my name is Bridget White. I'm usually, like Louis said, a co-host, but today I'm going to be interviewed. Like I said, my name's Bridget White. I was born and raised in Calgary. I still live in Calgary. I'm part of the Métis Nation of Alberta, so I'm Métis-Cree on my mother's side, and non-Indigenous on my father's side. And yeah, I was born here. Then I moved away to London, Ontario, which I mentioned earlier, for school. And I went to Western University for 4 years. I took my undergrad in health sciences. And then last summer, I got a job with Dr. Lindsay Croshoe. And I'm working as a research, or I began working as a research assistant in the family medicine department with him. And I've been a part of a couple different projects, and I was working there throughout the year. And now I've continued my job. I've been working there for a year, and now I'm continue going on for the next year until I figure out what I want to do with my life. So coming out of post grad,
Yeah,
things are a little. I'm sure Louis, you can agree. Like you don't really know what you want to do. So I'm just
yeah, I could go on about this, but
yeah, just figuring it out day
it's
by day.
yeah, for sure. I mean, this is something I could really ramble about, but I'm going to stop myself because, I don't know. So the thing that you used to keep it together, you said was walking, correct?
Yes, yeah, I've had a dog for the past probably 12 years. We've always had a dog in the house, and walking was always something that we had to do every day. But when I moved away to university, I was no longer walking my dog every day. I moved to London, and I was on my own there, so there was not really an excuse to get out and walk unless I was walking to class. But when the pandemic hit, I had really no excuse to leave the house. There was nowhere to go. There was no school. So my obviously, just like everybody, my mental health was definitely starting to decline because I was stuck inside, especially when you're in London, Ontario, which is a very gray winter. It got really depressing and very difficult. So I talked to my family, I talked to a couple other friends, and everybody suggested that maybe we need to start going on some walks together, or just early in the morning or whenever you can. So I would start to go on a walk. I'd wake up as early as possible, and I would go and take a walk around. I'd take my cup of coffee with me, and I'd listen to a podcast or just something to get me out of the house. Because like I said, it was really difficult to do that during the pandemic. So yeah, it was kind of just an excuse to get me out there. And now that I'm graduated and I've moved back home, we have a new puppy in the house. So now it's a responsibility that I have every day to take her on a walk. And I continue to do it even after the pandemic, because not only because it's a responsibility, but because I know that it really did help me get through COVID and have an excuse to leave the house. And yeah.
hmm I mean, honestly, I've had an incredibly similar experience, right? I wasn't in a different town or anything. I was here in Calgary from the start of COVID, and we had actually at the beginning of COVID, we had another dog, my childhood dog, who I had since she was seven, or since I was seven, but she died unfortunately at she was 17.
Wow.
And yeah, but there was a little bit of time there where I wasn't really walking, and then we ended up getting a new dog and adopting. She's like a rescue. Her name's Lilo. I love her, but I started walking again a lot. Like she's a very high energy dog, right? So she needed a lot of exercise. So I, started walking her for like an hour every morning and like an hour in the evening and stuff. And yeah, no, it's like, I still do it, right? Like she's, you know, a big part of probably me personally keeping it together as well over, the pandemic and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no walking has was definitely like a huge thing for me too, and I think a lot of people as well.
Yeah, I know everybody started going on their family COVID walks. I know people
Yeah.
needed, like I said, everybody needed an excuse to just get out of the house because
Hmm.
you couldn't go to any stores, you couldn't go to the movies, you couldn't go on like your normal activities that you would do during the summer or the winter or whenever it was. So the best option was just to go out with your house or go out on your own and go explore your own neighborhood or go walk around out in the mountains. That's something that I would do a lot too. I would go and drive out to Banff and go for a walk out there or like a little hike or something like that. So it
Hmm.
was really helpful, and I know a lot of people probably feel the same way cuz yeah, it was just something to do.
Have you maintained like that same schedule? Do you still
Yeah.
like go for regular walks?
Yeah, so I usually wake up early in the morning before I have to work, and I'll go I my thing right now, it kind of changes. Like I'll have kind of phases of where I want to go, but right now I've really been enjoying taking my dog to the dog park early in the morning. So we go to River Park, I think it's called. Yeah, it's by kind of near Marda Loop area in Calgary, and there's just like so many dogs there, and they're early in the morning too, so I don't have to worry about Nellie getting there, and there's nothing to. Nellie's my dog, by the way, and I'm getting there, and there's no dogs for her to hang out with. But it's a really beautiful place. It's all you can see a view of the city, and you just walk along like the river, so it's really pretty, and Nellie has lots of fun there. So I've been getting up pretty early, and I drive over there, which is quite the drive, but it's worth it. And we'll go for an hour or so, and then I'll head back home. And then for the afternoon walk, if I'm going for an afternoon walk, I usually just walk around my neighborhood. I live on like the in like the valley, so I live near the river,
Hmm.
and I have lots of like hiking trails out here. So we'll go down there, and Nellie can swim in the river, and it's just really pretty. It's completely surrounded by trees, and you just feel like you're immersed in nature when you're still in Calgary. So it's been really nice, and that's kind of been the routine. Yeah.
The thing with this podcast, of course, is keeping it together, right? KIT, it's an acronym. Wow. If you didn't realize that, now you know. But keeping it together, right? Like, how did walking help you keep it together, right? Like, how did that can you like, explain exactly like how that like kind of helped your mental health, or how like,
Yeah.
because I don't know, I feel like it was good for me and I could explain it too, but I think it's like something that's very personal for people, honestly. Like, I think,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
your
Well,
your experience could be totally different.
yeah, I mean, like I said, especially during the pandemic with basically nothing to do when you're stuck inside with your family, particularly during lockdown period. I needed to get myself out of the house because staying inside was not good for me. Um, I needed to get outside to ground myself and kind of just connect with nature a little bit because, like I said, staying indoors, being confined by four walls, not the greatest thing for mental health. So going outside, getting some fresh air, and also getting some exercise because during the pandemic, I obviously they had closed down gyms and everything, so I wasn't able to go and do the workouts that I would normally do. So walking was kind of my way of being active, but also keeping it together mentally. Yeah, just like I said, connecting with nature, getting outside, having a little break from the world, and I would also try
Hmm.
to listen to um, podcasts that were helpful in terms of mental health. So I wasn't just listening to I could also listen to something that was I'm like about something that I was passionate in or passionate about. But I tried my best to listen to podcasts about you know, during COVID, how to keep yourself mentally stable, how to keep yourself doing something, keep yourself passionate. And I know that with the pandemic, it was hard to motivate myself to do anything. And like I was doing school at the same time, and I found it was a really dark time, I'm sure, for everyone. And
Hmm.
walking and listening to something, or even just walking and listening to nature, was like kind of a little bit of an escape and helped me learn a little bit about myself. And yeah, it just gave me like a feeling of being grounded, and I would come back in a much better mood than I started off in.
For sure, for sure. I mean, I could definitely talk about being, you know, I guess like the grounding aspect of it, right? Because like, so like I only recently have been able to drive. I mean, like I've had my license for a long time, but like I haven't like had access to a car, I guess, right? So yeah, basically throughout like, you know, since the start of the pandemic and stuff, most of my dog walking has been like kind of local, right? But like that's not been such a bad thing, right? Like I've been, you know, I've explored like pretty much all the different walking paths around my area. I've gone, you know, like pretty far. I have a good idea of like what's around me and stuff. And like part of that too is like I do find that centering and like, you know, grounding and stuff to be like I don't know. I think it's like really easy to feel disconnected from like what's around you nowadays, you know, with just
Absolutely.
like this, you know, there's so much pressure from like other forms of stimulation that are just so easy, right? And like my brain is like, you know, I don't know, I love that. You
Yeah.
know, I love the internet.
Yeah.
Like it's free stimulation and stuff, right? And like but it's so easy to get like sucked into that and like kind of like lose sight almost of like the world around you and stuff. And I think it's like so common. So like I don't know. I'd really try to make it a mission of myself to be like aware of my surroundings and like aware of like what's happening around me. And like when you really kind of focus and look, you know, you can see a lot going on. You know, a lot changes day to day, right? Like, you know, following the birds, like watching birds. I know that's like such a like a lame sounding like kind of hobby and stuff. And it's not like I do it for real or anything, but like I don't know. I love like just looking around the neighborhood, seeing like what the birds are doing, seeing like, you know, what you know what the latest like you know new birds in the neighborhood are. I know that I'm like phrasing this really bad or whatever, but there's been like we had a bunch of robins who have been nesting like on our front porch and stuff. We just had a bunch of babies and we watched them hatch. And then there's like an you know, like an albino magpie actually in my neighborhood as well who I was like I tried to get pictures of it. I do have pictures of them, but like I can't get any like good pictures of them because I'd be walking with my dog and my dog would scare them away if you got
Yeah.
too close. So you know, but it's you know, I do have photo proof. And like the magpies and stuff who like, you know, I don't know, they have a lot of personality. They like, you know, they're very territorial. They'll get in your face and stuff. They'll follow you around. They hate my dog because again, she's like, you know, she wants to eat them. So I don't blame them or anything, but they'll like follow us down the street sometimes and like, you know, honk at us and tell us to go away. Like, you know, or sometimes they'll just come hang out if I'm not with her. Like I don't, you know what I mean? But it's like I don't know, all that stuff is like real,
Yeah.
right? Like all that stuff is like, you know, like that's like I don't know, it's the world
Yeah.
around you and it is beautiful and stuff. And I think it's incredibly easy to like lose sight of that and like why we do things or like, you know, I don't you know what
I
I
know
mean?
what you
But
mean.
I guess for me, it's
Yeah,
important.
no, I think one thing that reminds me of is I had never gone out on a, like, obviously walking my dog, another story, but when I actually started to pay attention to my surroundings and started to pay attention, because like you, I was walking in the same places every day. So one of the things that I noticed was how every day, in terms of like the seasons, were different. So one day I would show up and, oh, all the leaves are turning brown, and then a couple days later all the leaves are gone, and then a couple days later there's snow on the ground, and
Hmm.
then it's so nice in spring, which we just experienced recently, to go out and start to see the leaves starting to grow again. And you see this cycle of life going on around you that I never tried to pay attention to before. And
Never really
yeah, I
appreciated
never
it.
appreciated it until I really started paying attention and trying to stay grounded while I was out walking. And you were mentioning how in the world that we live in right now, it's so easy to be distracted by other forms of stimulus, so like TV or the internet or things like that. And I know that when we were in lockdown, it was extremely difficult for me, because I'm the same way. I find those easy things like watching TV or being on the internet, or binge watching a show or whatever they call it. Like, it's easier to do, and it's an easy little escape for your brain. You don't have to think about things. You just watch something, or play a video game, and you can just kind of turn off parts of your brain.
Hmm.
But taking yeah,
Yeah, no, I know all about
yeah,
that.
taking the time to, get out of the house. And my mom would always encourage me to go for walks, and she would always tell me that I needed to get outside, like all parents do. And I finally started taking her advice, and yeah, it's helped a lot, and it disconnects me from those things. And usually I'll leave my phone at home, and I'll go on the walk, and I'll just have like the
Hmm.
podcast on my watch, or like I said, sometimes I won't even listen to a podcast, and I'll just try to completely disconnect from all the other kinds of easy stimulus like TV or internet or my phone or anything like that. And yeah, it's been really helpful, and I noticed so many things that I never noticed before.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's funny though. I've been thinking about that, like, you know, propensity of like young people to want to be stimulated all the time. Because I definitely went through that. Like, definitely, like that was like my entire childhood and teenage years, and even to an extent, like my early adult years. Like, I'm only like 26, but like when I was like 18 or 19 or whatever, like I was still like in that like mindset of like, oh man, like everything else sucks. All I want to do is like play video games and be on the internet and like be on my computer or whatever. Like that's all I care about and stuff. And like, my parents hated it, and I don't blame them either, right? But like, it really took like me just like growing up and getting older and kind of like, I don't know, feeling empty about like all of those like easy stimulations and whatnot to like kind of realize that and like start trying to like reach out and experience like, things that are more real and stuff, right? But I see like that phenomenon like so many kids today, like more. I don't even know like very many kids besides like maybe my sisters, who are like, but they're forced to go and like do things all the time, right?
Yeah,
We have a very busy family and stuff, but like I know like so many kids and stuff that have like are just like want to shut themselves off from the world. But the thing is that like you can't like force them either, right? Because if you tell them to, it'll just make them double
yeah,
down, right? It's like a conclusion that they have to come to themselves, right? At least it was for me, and like I see it like with my brother and stuff too. Like that's totally going to be the case as well. Like all he wants to do right now is just play video games and stuff. But like hopefully he'll get to a point. Well, he will get to a point in life where he's like, okay, like there's other stuff, and like I need to slow down and appreciate like existing on like this beautiful planet where we still
yeah.
have the chance, right?
I know,
And
growing up
you know
myself, I was one of those kids where, like, my family, my older brother and I, we were the kids that would go out and go mountain biking every day, and we'd go to the park every day and play with the
mhm.
neighbors and be outside. And then the next, I sound like I'm so old, but like the next generation, I guess only a couple years younger than me. I'm
How
only
old are you?
22. I'm
How old
only
are you?
22. But
Oh my god, you're
but
younger
then
than
there's
me.
like my little brother, who hopefully he can't hear me right now because he's gonna hate that I'm talking about this. But he is very much like, he would get out a lot more. But I think also, again, like with the pandemic, he was growing up during the pandemic, and he couldn't go out and you know play with his friends like normal kids would do. And he also grew up in the era of like accessibility. Like, everything is on your phone. You can do anything with the internet. You can, if you want to play a video game, it's
Totally.
100% accessible to you. If you want to sit down and watch like hours of episodes on television of some show, you can totally do that. Like, I'm only 5 years older than him, but I didn't have that. I like Netflix is It wasn't really in my house until, more when I was, becoming an adult. So I didn't have that accessibility until now. But yeah, my little brother, he's definitely a lot more indoors, and plays his video games and everything like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there are times, my dog's right here, there are times where you need to connect with nature, enjoy your surroundings, and explore more. So
And just like
yeah.
log off as well. Just like logging off, man. Like I don't know. Like I've definitely like, seen my fair share of the internet, and like, I've definitely like, lived a good portion of my life probably on the internet too, and like, whatnot, right? And it's like so many things, I guess like, okay, I'm trying to like figure out how to phrase this that doesn't sound stupid, but like, I think like when you're really into that culture, I guess, and you're like really sucked in, when you really like plugged in and stuff, it's like so many things that happen on the internet that are like really, seem like a big deal to you are not actually that big of a deal. And like hilariously, just like again, turning off your computer and going and doing something else could be like the best thing for
Yeah.
you, right? Because it's like so many issues and stuff just feel like life
Yep.
ending when they happen, but really it's like I don't know, it's like the Tyler the Creator tweet or whatever. It's like, just close your eyes and step away from the computer. And like I know that's like he said that like super, kind of like ironically, and it sounds like kind of mean spirited and stuff and flippant about like people who are getting like, having actual cyber issues or whatever, I guess you could say. But like it's also kind of like, yeah, he is right. You can just like leave. You can always
Yep.
quit the internet or whatever. You can always like go out and like experiencing something real,
Yep.
like walking your dog, even if something as easy as that, you can just go and start doing that. And like when I started doing that, or when I got back to doing it, it's like, yeah, my mental health
Yeah.
massively improved, So like, it's, it really can be as
Yeah.
easy as that, sometimes. And, and then the ball starts rolling and you start doing other things, and it's good, right? Like I'm not gonna like cut the internet
No,
out of my life or anything,
I've
obviously.
definitely
Like
had
it's,
my fair share
but
of internet usage as well, 100%. I mean, we all kind of, in this day and age, we all kind of live on our phones. Like our whole life is on our phone, and some people like their
yeah,
whole job is on their phone. So it's really hard. Like you can disconnect from social media, you can disconnect from other things that are distracting you, like video games or Netflix or anything like that. But it's a lot easier said than done for a lot of people. Like
yeah,
it can be really difficult for people to completely detach themselves from that, because for a lot of people, like, it is their whole life. And since the pandemic, like,
yeah.
I've I think the pandemic has made me a little bit more attached to my phone, more than usual, at least, because yeah, it
Yeah, I
gives
mean, definitely
me
same.
something to do. But my mom would always say,
Yeah,
like, if like you were talking about before, when something happens and it feels like your world is absolutely ending, she would always suggest go for a walk. Go for a walk and then see how you feel after. And when I was younger, like a teenager, I'd be like, a walk's not going to do anything. I feel horrible. Like, this is the end of the world, blah, 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 blah. And then finally I started taking her advice, and I would go for a walk and I'd come back and I'd be like, okay, so now things are actually put into a real perspective. Like, I've cooled off.
yeah,
It's given me time to kind of, it's almost like meditation a little bit. Like you're just focusing on
yeah.
one thing, you're just walking, you're enjoying nature, you're disconnected from other parts of the world or things that might be upsetting you. So,
You're
yeah,
present. You're present. You're in the moment. You're existing and like only really interacting with things that are like currently, you know, exist in front of you, I guess. I don't know. This was cool though. I like I don't know. I like walking. I think it's important. I know it's like probably isn't like the most like mind blowing, like world shattering like revelation, like, oh, I should go on a walk sometimes.
it
But like really it
makes the
honestly does
world of
help.
a
If yeah,
difference. It
if you're
really
not doing
does.
it, yeah, like it does. And
Yeah.
like I think both of us can
Yeah.
attest to that. So but like try it out, put it in your kit, whatever the whole shtick is, I don't remember. Whatever. I'm just spitballing here. But but yeah, no, thanks for everybody,
Yeah.
you, Bridget, and everybody who's joined us today to
Yeah.
listen and stuff. Thank you for coming.